So I was hoping to get some more framing done, but my wife told me I have something better to do, and that something is fixing up my daughter's secondhand kitchen. So this is my chore for today. My wife wants me to do a little bit of work on this kitchen that my sister-in-law, her sister, gave her for our daughter. What my wife wants me to do is fix this up here, fix that little holder for the shelf, build a shelf for in here, and I'm going to build a little cooktop. So I'm just using a piece of 1/2 inch plywood for the shelf. It's going to be 10.5 inches wide by 13.25 inches deep. And the two sides I'm not really worried about, but with plywood, of course you have all these plies, hence the name plywood. So I want to hide those. So on the front, I have a veneer strip that I'm going to put on there and then just paint the thing as close to the color of the kitchen as I can get. Okay, I'm going to cut the longer side first. That way when I switch it around, I won't have to cut so long of a board. And also I can also preserve a good section of this board instead of ripping the whole thing down to 10.5 and making the whole board smaller. I can just kind of cut it in half and then hopefully use that for something else. Okay, I picked up this veneer from the Home Depot. As you can see from the description, you just iron it on. You turn on the highest setting, the cotton setting, to really get it heated up and hold it in place. So in case you're trying to keep the wood look, these veneers come in different types of wood. This is a birch wood. It'll also come in oak and different types. So depending on what type of wood you're using, you can go to the store and buy this, and then it'll match your plywood and give it a nice face on the front. I don't really care what type of wood. I just grabbed the cheapest one because I'm going to iron this on and paint it, so it didn't even matter what type of wood I was using. The edge I'm going to put the veneer on is going to be one of the edges that I just cut. Okay, so unfortunately the Home Depot doesn't sell a thinner piece of this. They might in your area. My local Home Depot didn't. So I'm gonna have a lot of trimming to do. I'm just gonna get this in place. And you can see that's pretty much already stuck on there. Just kind of iron it flat. That should be it. Okay, I'm just going to trim this with the utility knife. They make other types of trimmers out there, and they're super nice for this. You can just kind of run them along and they'll trim everything just right. This, like I said, this is basically my daughter's toy. I don't really care that much. I'm not making super nice oak furniture or something. And this is real wood, so you can just kind of run your blade along it and it'll just cut right off. If you're gonna do anything super nice like a bookcase or something, I'll definitely get one of the trimmers. Okay, and I'm just gonna sand down these edges just a little bit and clean up some of this plywood. And of course I have some stuff from one of my other videos on here. I don't care, like I said, it's gonna get painted. So I'm gonna clean this up, throw a coat of primer on it, and then throw some paint on it. So for the cooktop, I'm gonna use this piece of plexiglass, and I'm gonna use these little lids for the burners. So I'm going to cut this out 12.5 inches by 12.5 inches. I'm going to set these in place. I'm going to weight them with something. I haven't figured it out yet. Something that can get paint on it. And I'm going to paint the whole thing black, just on one side. And then I'll remove these and then paint them gray. And then when you flip it over, you'll see a black cooktop with the gray burners. Okay, since these are going on my daughter's kitchen, I kind of want to sand everything down, and I'm going to make some little curves at the ends and just make sure that it's safe, but also so it looks okay. So in case you were wondering why I bothered putting the piece of veneer on the plywood, this is the piece of veneer after it's been painted, and this is the plywood. All those little plies, they soak up the paint really well, and they don't form a solid surface. So I don't really care what the side looks like. So if you put the piece of veneer on the part that's going to show and paint it, you won't end up with that, and it'll look a little bit more professional. Okay, I'm going to put some holes in this plexiglass that I'm going to anchor down this cooktop. I'm going to use a small drill bit that's actually going to go into the playset itself. And I'm going to use a bigger drill bit to actually drill through this plexiglass. And the reason is I don't want the threads touching this plexiglass and possibly breaking it. I just want the screws to hold it down in place. And whenever you're selecting a drill bit, depending on whatever size of screw you're going to use, you want to look at a screw. And if you notice, I don't know how well you can see that, but you see the little spirals, and then you see the shank in the middle. And what you want to do is pick a drill bit that is approximately the same size as the shank. And you want to drill that drill bit that takes up the space of the shank down into whatever material you want to drill the screw down into, and then that'll keep the wood from splitting. And then these threads, these spirals, will do their job and hold the material in place. And I'm going to use this bigger drill bit that's bigger than the screw, bigger than the threads and everything, so I can put a pretty good size hole in here, and then the littler screws can do their job. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and drill the holes in the plexiglass. In the previous video, I called this plywood. I called it plywood. It's called OSB, oriented strand board. And it's actually pretty neat how they make this. You can see the little pieces that they have. And they start with a stack, I don't know, a few feet, like, I don't know, 2.5, 3 feet high. Mix a bunch of glue in it and press it down. And they call it oriented strand board because of the way that the strands go. Somebody commented and said, you know, you called that plywood. Yeah, it's not plywood, it's oriented strand board, but I've also called it OSB plywood, oriented strand board plywood. So probably the issue is I'm still a little bit new to YouTube, so along with trying to do my projects, sometimes I lose track of what I'm talking about. So thanks for the catch. And I have this piece of OSB plywood down just to protect my tabletop here. Okay, I have the shelf installed. I think it matches the color pretty well. And here's the cooktop. Okay, that wraps up that project. So that kitchen's in pretty good shape. So it should definitely last her until, I don't know, at least a few more years till I get her out here welding and using the plasma cutter and riding dirt bikes and shooting and stuff. So I don't know. Hopefully she enjoys it for the next few years till she starts doing other things. I appreciate you watching. If there's any videos you'd like to see, certainly I want to get more done on this framing, but I have a door to install. This thing needs to get installed, and I have a few things to do around the house. And most of the reason why I do these videos is just to give people ideas of, you know, stuff that my wife and I come up with, you know, like that piece of plexiglass, using that for a cooktop. And, you know, instead of trying to paint stuff on there, that'll work really well because the paint's underneath. So she can sit there and beat up the top without wrecking the paint. So if there's any different things, I'm gonna have some welding projects coming up and things. So if there's anything you'd like to see, let us know, and I don't know, maybe we'll be creative enough to figure it out. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any videos. Thanks.